Very good afternoon, students. In this session of international marketing, I, Dr. Sangamita Das, will be discussing about the communication decisions for the international market. So the main learning objectives in this particular session will be about it will be highlighting the significance of communication decisions in international markets, and secondly to explain the process of communication in the international market. So if we start with the first thing, that actually why is communication necessary in the international market and why it has to be effective, because communication is necessary everywhere, but why it has to be very effective in the international market. So the main idea over here is that actually effective communication is very crucial to a firm's success in the international markets. The firms attempt to convey a set of messages to the target customers through some communication channels in order to create a favorable response for their market offerings and regularly receive market feedback. So, in marketing terms, it is referred to as promotion, the fourth P of marketing mix. Although mostly the textbooks use the term promotion, marketing communication is used more is the appropriate word instead of promotion. So, marketing communication in international market becomes highly complex and challenging because of the differences in the cultural context and the legal framework. So, neglecting the nuances of the different cultures may lead not only to enormous cost on the marketing companies but also to market failures. So, overlooking the cross country differences have resulted in much embarrassment in international markets, even for the mighty you can say the big very big transnational companies also, or the global brands. I'll discuss some examples over here which will help you to understand how effective communication is very necessary in the international market. For example, when Coca-Cola was first introduced in China, it was named Kiko Kela. Later the company found that the phrase translated in a Chinese dialect as bite the wax tadpole or female horse stuffed with wax. So subsequently, it found a very close phonetic equivalent, koku kuli, which can roughly be translated as happiness in the mouth. After they did a search, or you can say research, about 40,000 Chinese character, then only Coca-Cola was able to come to an appropriate wording. And you can say in another incidents also what happened, that you have heard the name of the company Chevrolet. So it is a very popular US car, and its brand Nova failed miserably in the Latin America. Because later the company found that Nova means no go in Spanish, so it had to be renamed its car as Caribe for the Spanish markets. So this the Swedish, then we talk about the Swedish vacuum cleaner. The manufacturer Electrolux introduced the same print advertisement, which it had providedly proved highly successful in Britain with its "Nothing sucks like an Electrolux" tagline in the US market. However, Electrolux found this to be a disaster in the US market because in American culture, sucks means really bad. That is, Electrolux is a really very bad vacuum cleaner. Then, if you talk about, take the example of Nike. Nike introduced its Air line of the basketball shoes in 1996 with a stylized flame-like logo of the word Air on the shoe's backside and sole. A prominent Islamic organization declared that this particular logo could be interpreted as the Arabic script spelling of Allah. So Nike in 1997, Nike had to accept its mistake, and it had to recall its products from the market. So it accepted the multiple measures to integrate itself with the council. Nike apologized to the Islamic community for an unintentional offense of their sensibilities, implemented a global recall of certain samples of Nike, diverted the shipments of the commercial products in question from sensitive markets, discontinued all models with that offending logo, implemented organizational changes to their design department to tighten security scrutiny of logo design, promised to work with CAIR to identify Muslim design resources for future references. It also took measures to raise their internal understanding of Islamic issues. So later, the company reported that CIR, that is Council for American Islamic Relations, is satisfied that no deliberate offense to the Islamic community was intended by the logo. Now, from these examples, I think you can understand how much it is necessary to have an effective communication when you are going for a business in the international market. So, in view of the above, it becomes very pertinent for the marketers to learn the basic concepts of international marketing communication and develop a thorough understanding of nuances under cross country situation. So, we'll be talking about these only now. Okay, so the environmental factors like the culture, the government regulations, the language, and media available in in the multi-country marketing environment make international marketing communication decisions much more complex than the domestic marketing decisions. So we'll be starting with that what is actually communication. So communication is sending and receiving information between two or more persons. Communication itself may be defined as the process of influencing others' behaviors by sharing ideas, information, or feelings with them. The basic goal of communication is a common understanding of the meaning of the information that is being transmitted. There are mainly two types of communication. One is verbal communication, and one is you can say there is one is through the body language, and one is written communication. Verbal communication, as you may all know, that it is a sending message through spoken language that is understood by both the sender and the receiver of the message. Written communication is sending a message by the use of symbols that are understood by both the sender and the receiver of the message. Body language is a form of non-verbal communication that is used to send messages. Then we talk about the various strategies of marketing communication, that is the pull strategy and the push strategy. You can see the diagram of push strategy over there. So first we'll discuss the push strategy. In push strategy, the promotional program is primarily directed at the marketing intermediaries in the distribution system. It aims to motivate the market intermediaries to stock, promote, and sell the products to the ultimate consumers. You can see it in the figures also. The market intermediaries, such as the distributors, the wholesalers, and the retailers, are offered a variety of incentives to push the product in the market. Generally, in push strategy, the distributors are motivated to promote the product to the wholesaler, who in turn promote the product to the retailers, who finally push the product to the consumers. So the tools that are used in the push strategy mostly include personal selling and sales promotion, contests for salespeople and trade shows. Push strategy is usually found to be more effective under the following situations. That is, lack of product differentiation is there, weak brand identity or brand clutter is there is low brand loyalty, there is difficulty in appreciating product benefits, it is an industry product, the sales is for the institutions, lack of access to advertising media, low promotional budget, short and direct marketing channels, low wages, that is cost of employing salespeople is lower than the advertising cost. So firms with low promotional budget often adopt push strategy to move their products through the distribution channel. Besides, commodities of brands has made it difficult for the customers to differentiate between the competing brands, making push strategy more effective. But the biggest drawback of the push strategy is that hardly any brand loyalty is created even after spending huge sums of money. Besides, the channel intermediaries become more demanding and ask for increase in their margins to support the product. In case the demand for a product is low, the marketer has to accede to the demands of channel intermediaries. This triggers an unhealthy competition among the marketers to offer more and more margins, which further squeezes the promotional budget among the marketers to offer more and more for advertising, more and more margins. In developing countries, the size of the retail outlet is small and the majority of them are managed by only one or two persons. Therefore, the customers come in direct contact with the sellers and often seek their opinion about the product. The margin of the seller on a particular product often determines their opinion. Under such situation, push strategy serves as an effective promotional tool. Now we'll talk about pull strategy. So the pull strategy you can see in the diagram over here. The pull strategy is the process of motivating the customers to buy the product from the retailers through promotional programs. It is referred to as the pull strategy. A retailer asks for a product from a wholesaler and the wholesaler asks for the product from a distributor who gets the product from the firm. So pull strategy is more effective in the following situations: perceived product differentiation, strong brand identity, high brand loyalty, high involvement product category, high promotional budgets, self-service in retail system, that is the supermarket culture. So the promotional techniques mostly used for the pull strategy include advertising and sales promotion campaigns directed at the customers, such as discount and gift vouchers, samples, etc. In retail outlets where self service is predominant, pull strategy is more effective. Besides, pull strategy also facilitates long term brand loyalty among the customers. However, in view of the market conditions and the aforementioned factors, you can see that it is always better to use a judicial mix of pull and push strategies for market promotion. So these were the push and the pull strategies. Now we'll be talking about the steps in the communication process. So the first step is identifying the target audience. The term target audience refers to the people from whom the promotional message is meant and includes both present and potential customers. Therefore, to reach such people with a meaningful message, the marketer must identify the target receivers and their characteristics. You can select the age is there, sex is there, income, education, etc. The attitudes. Okay, so these are the various things through which you're able to identify your target customer. By understanding the profile of the target customer, it becomes easier for the sender to match the message to his target audience. Second one is determining the communication objectives. The communication objectives may be different in some cases. For example, when the product is in the introduction stage in a market, the emphasis of communication could be on consumer education and creating primary demand. At other stages, the objective may be different. The third one, determining the message. According to Kotler, formulating the message will require solving four problems. So determining the message is very important because it helps you to understand what to say, that is the message content, how to say it logically, that is the message structure, how to say it symbolically, that is the message format, and who should say it, that is message source. So then you have budget decisions. So the common method used to set promotion budget are as follows. Affordable method, that is set the budget at what the company thinks it can afford. Percentage of sales method, a certain percentage of sales is set apart for promotion. Objective and task method, it involves determining the communication objectives and the tasks involved in achieving the objectives and estimating the expenditure requirements for performing these tasks. Then you have competitive parity method. The budget is set at that level which matches the promotional expenditure of the competitors. In collecting feedback, it refers to the receiver's reaction to the message being communicated back to the source. The following are the principles of communication as you can see it. There should be clarity of thoughts. It should be having consideration, consciousness, concreteness, courtesy, completeness, and correctness. See, these are all the seven C's of communication. We'll be going through each of them one by one. So, first is clarity of thoughts. So, if the sender is confused, the entire cycle of communication will be spoiled. So, there are very three important aspects about clarity. The objective of the communication should be clear, what is to be communicated should be clear, and what medium is to be used should be most suitable for the communication. For example, to prohibit smoking in rail compartments, the no smoking board is being displayed at the entrance of each compartment. This is to give a warning to the smokers. Second one is conciseness. The message that you are passing on should always be very concise. It should include only the relevant information. There should be avoiding of repetition of words. The organizing of the messages should be well done. The third one, concreteness. It means the message should be specified, definite. It should not be vague and general, as vague messages will confuse the receiver. The fourth C, that is correctness. Always it should be taken care that the data which is to be transferred should be correct unless and until you're not sure about the particulars, the information should not be forwarded. Fifth one, courtesy. So whenever writing some letter or you write doing a business communication, so in business writing also you must be very create friendliness for whom we are writing. For example, maybe the bankers, we're writing for the creditors, for the customers, or the dealers. So the following principles should be considered. The answer should be done, answering this should be done promptly. There should be avoidance of irritating expressions like you failed, you incorrect, you are irresponsible. Such an expression hurts the reader. So omit such words while writing. Then apologize sincerely. If you have failed to provide required information or you're answering a letter late, offer an apology so that the reader attitude will become positive towards you. For example, we are very sorry as there was a delay in the delivery of goods. The sixth C, that is consideration. So letters have to be considered from the reader's point of view also. So the emphasis is always on positive point in the context, even you have to say sorry. Then 7C, that is completeness. In business, completeness of facts is very important. Incomplete communication may irritate or confuse the reader. For example, when you're placing an order, one must emphasize product size, the product code, the mode of delivery, the mode of payment, and other terms and conditions. So when writing, check 5W questions like who, where, when, what, who, so to make the message more clear. Now we talk about the process of communication in the international market. As you can see in the diagram itself that the sender is from the home country and he is sending messages to the foreign country. So the message is getting encoded and it is over here at the sender's end, and the message is getting decoded at the receiver's end in the foreign country. So we will be talking about the process of communication in the next slide. So the first thing is the first element, important element of communication is sender or the encoder. It refers to the marketing firm that is conveying the message. So encoding is before a message is sent, it's encoded, putting thoughts, your ideas or information into a symbolic form. The use of words, signs or symbols should be such that the audience become familiar. Mostly symbols that have universal meaning are chosen. Language and culture should also be taken care of. Then you have message that it can be verbal or non-verbal, oral, written or symbolic. So every message has three basic components. As I already said, that a message has three basic components: an object, a sign or a symbol, and an interpretant. So the object is the product, that is the focus of the message. For example, if I am talking about Marlboro cigarettes, the sign is the sensory imagery that represents the intended meaning of the object. Example, the Marlboro cowboy. And the interpretant is the meaning derived from it. For example, the rugged behavior, the individualistic American. So this is the message. Then we talk about the medium. The channel that is used to convey the encoded message to the intended receiver is termed as medium. The medium can be categorized in the following manner. It can be personal or it can be non-personal. So personal is, it involves personal means when it involves direct interpersonal face-to-face contact with the target groups. Salespeople serve as the channel of communication as they deliver the sales messages to the target customers. Friends, peers, neighbors, and family members constitute the social channels. Word of mouth communication is very powerful source of personal communication. Now, if we talk about non-personal communication, these are actually the channels that will be conveying the message without any interpersonal contact between the sender and the receiver. So, since the message is communicated to many persons at a single time, these channels are also referred to as mass media or mass communication channels. The non personal channels of communication may further be broadly classified as print media, in which we have your newspaper is there, magazine is there, direct mail is there, and you have the electronic media, that is the radio and television can be an example. Then we talk about the next is the decoding process. So the decoding process is the process of transforming the sender's message back into a thought. So decoding is highly influenced by the self-reference criteria, which we had already discussed when we were talking about culture by Hofstede. So this is unintended reference to one's own culture. Then you talk about the receiver. Receiver, it is the target audience or the customers who receive the message by way of maybe reading, hearing, or seeing. A number of factors influence how the message is received. These include clarity of the message, interest generated, translation, sound of words, and visuals that are being used in the message. Then, if we talk about noise, actually, it is the unplanned distortion or the interference of the message is termed as noise. So a message is subjected whenever we are communicating. Actually, we all always face some of the other barrier, and one of the most important barrier is the noise. So a message that is subject to a variety of external factors that distort or interfere its reception. So technical snacks such as problem in telecommunication or signals, both at the end and the receiving ends, may cause a distortion. So the computer's promotional activities often create confusion in the minds of the customers, and they are a major source of noise. Then we talk about feedback. In order to assess the effectiveness of the marketing communication, so what happens is that the feedback has to be taken from the customers, and it is very crucial. So the time that is needed to assess the communication impact depends upon the type of promotion that is being used. For example, an immediate feedback can be obtained by personal selling, whereas it takes much longer time to access the communication effectiveness in case of advertisement. In international markets, a firm has to communicate with the customers and the channel intermediaries that are located in overseas markets that have considerably different marketing environment characteristics. So the difference in cultural environment, the economic development of the market, the regulatory framework, the language and media availability make the task of international marketing communication much more complex, that is as compared to the domestic marketing. Now we'll talk about the consumer response hierarchy models. The main objective of any marketing communication, as you must be knowing, is to induce the target customer segment to buy the product. So this can be achieved by conveying various attributes and also the competitive edge of the product to the customers. So the conveyed message is expected to change the customer attitude towards the product and make them buy it. So these response stages are mostly known as cognitive stage, affective stage, and behavioral stage. So you'll be in the following slides, we'll be talking about the two types of response model. One is the IDA model and one is the innovation adoption model. So mostly the organization employs the item model to obtain the necessary response from the target consumers through advertisement. This model can be operated successfully to stimulate the different emotions of the customers. As you can see in the diagram, the first is A is for attention, and then interest, then desire, and then action. So the next one is, you can see over here that the funnel shaped model is over here. The attention is the cognitive stage where you are actually making the customers aware that how that a product or some a product or service is there in the market. So that is, you can see it is in the shape of a funnel. That is the consumers who are going to actually purchase it are much more lower the actual consumers whom we are making aware of the product. So that is why it is in the shape of a funnel. So the IDA model in this approach, the mainly the what is happening, the main objective of the firm is to make the customers aware of the product and seek their attention through effective marketing communication, such as through effective advertising. The awareness would in turn generate interest about the product in the consumers, followed by the desire to own. So the entire process will ultimately lead to a purchase. So you can see the attention, that was the first, that is A, and it is awareness stage where the consumers become aware of a brand or a product, mostly through the advertisement. And I, that is interest, this is a stage where the consumer shows some interest in the product after understanding its benefits and learns how well the product actually fits into his lifestyle. Then you have desire, that is for D. This is the third stage of IDA. When the consumer desires to own the product, he develops a favorable disposition towards the product. Then the last one is action. This is the final step of the model where the consumer finally takes favorable to satiate his desire. In this stage, he takes a purchase decision and buys the product that is being advertised. In the ideal model, the awareness of a brand or product takes place in the cognitive stage. The potential customer develops an interest and desire to purchase the product in the affective stage, and the purchase action actually materializes in the last stage, that is the behavioral stage. Then you have the innovation adoption model. You can see awareness is there, interest is there, evaluation is there, trial and adoption. So awareness is the cognitive stage. In effective stage, you have interest and evaluation. In the behavioral stage, you have trial and adoption. So Another model that is this was given by Rogers, especially in reference to a new product, is the innovation adoption model. In this, a firm creates awareness and generates interest before the customer and gets a chance to evaluate firsthand. So the firm also gives a final trial to the new product before it is actually adopted by the customers. So you can see over in the diagram. So awareness is the primary stage of innovation adoption model. It takes action is the awareness stage of the model where the customer aware becomes aware of the brand or the service. Then you have the interest stage where it is the second phase of the innovation adoption model. This is the stage where the information about the brand or the product multiplies in the market and it triggers the interest of the people, the potential buyers of the product, to gain more knowledge and information about the product. Then you have the evaluation stage, which is the third stage of the innovation adoption model, which supplements the necessary information regarding the product to the consumers. In this stage, the consumers will evaluate and try to gain a better understanding. Then you have the trial stage. In this stage, the customers try the product before making the final adoption, and adoption is the final stage where the customer accepts the product, makes a purchase decision, finally the product is purchased. This was all about the innovation adoption model. We talked about the IDA model and the innovation adoption model. So these are the mostly the consumer response hierarchy models which are being used in the market so that the consumers can be drawn towards the product and the purchases can be made. Thus, the process of international marketing communication involves a sender, a message, a medium, and the receiver. Besides, the firm also has to take into consideration the noise and the communication feedback so that it can make modification in its communication strategy. The process of marketing communication becomes more complex in international context as the encoding and decoding of the message in different countries are influenced by a variety of factors such as culture, regulatory framework, and the media availability. So, for this session, this is all about the international communication process from my side. We'll continue with this session in the next video. Thank you, students. Thank you a lot. So, we'll be meeting in the next class. So, till then, thank you.